it's the coffee break again. It's 3 of us this time. So we're gonna just talk about a random topic. We've chosen movie monsters. So we're going to talk about our favourite movie monsters and all that nonsense.
The all-time great movie monsters. Going back to way back when, and then just seeing where it takes us. Who wants to start on this one then?
Well, I guess I'll sort of start. I mean, I think my favourite movie monster is probably Ridley Scott's Alien from the original Alien film. Just like it's like a typical monster movie. I guess like typical sort of horror movie, but it's set in a sci-fi world, and it's sort of dark and grungy and
dark and grungy. I like it.
but it's probably one of the first of its kind, really, and many films have sort of like imitated it and tried to imitate Alien and sort of ripped off the style of Geiger's Alien. I mean, take like Species and stuff like that, where they've used like sort of the same design elements of Geiger's Alien and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the film would have been the same if you had something which didn't look quite. I mean, it looked freaky. It was massive. Well, I mean, you can go right back and say about the initial the facehugger. I mean, it looked like a spider. A lot of people don't like spiders. That looked freaky enough. Obviously, it came out of the egg. I mean, the chest burster scene is obviously an iconic scene as well, and you're not expecting it. But without going through the actual scenes and things like that, the alien itself, it is freaky. It's one of those where you've got the design. If you could imagine that film being made and it being some big Doctor Who. With the greatest respect to Doctor Who, one of the old 70s Doctor Who costumes, like it being there and it just not having the same effect, because you'll look at it and you'll think, hang on a minute, with the tension of the film, aside, it wouldn't be the same. And obviously they changed that design for Aliens, which was a bit odd. They had the ridge head. Obviously the basics of it was the same, but you specified Alien more so. Is that because of the film, or is that because of the actual...
It's probably like the whole film in general. I mean, it's so like atmospheric, and the way it sort of builds up, and just like conversations between characters and stuff, it's just like so mundane and like realistic, sort of how they're sort of they're just sort of sat around like the breakfast table, and they're just sort of it just comes across so sort of natural. And you've got obviously Ash's character, the android, and I mean that is a big sort of surprise in the film. If you've never seen the film before, that sort of
spoilers
comes out of nowhere, and just like the overall sort of like the way things are sort of designed, and that like it's influenced so many sort of different films and stuff, other genres and things like that. I've always liked like the retro sort of 70s, 80s sort of designs of things.
I think it was one of those films where you have to take the whole film, and how it was stylized, and like you said, Harry, it was like normal, mundane conversations. So that makes it believable. So that then when you do have this freaky alien there, that makes it more scary because it's believable. And when we discuss different monsters, I think you have to take it in the context of the film as well, and how you then perceive that monster, whether it is scary or whether it's just funny or cool.
Just going off topic slightly, I mean, I guess you've got the monster, which is like the unknown alien type thing, but you could also say the other monster in the film is sort of the giant corporations, sort of, I guess, what was it, crew expendable, capture a specimen at all costs or whatever, sort of that sort of thing. It's like, so you got like the obvious thing of the unknown.
Well, this got heavy. This got heavy all of a sudden, didn't it?
And then you've got like, but who is the real monster? Is it us, or is it the killing machine that is just killing because it's not really like, doesn't have intent? It's just there.
Like when
I
they tried
admire
to
its
kill-
purity.
Yeah.
Kill Godzilla at
Yeah.
the end of the '98 version,
I don't want to talk about
and that
this.
very sad scene. Again, it was holding a mirror up to us. We were the monsters in the end.
I think the other thing with Alien is it follows, what's bizarre about it is it follows it takes elements from the Gothic horror. I mean, you have the seemingly unstoppable creature. I mean, if you compare it to something like, say, Dracula or things of those about, you have a seemingly unstoppable creature. You have the labyrinthian setting, which is obviously the Nostromo.
Yeah, that's
You
what I was trying to
have,
sort of say when I was saying like the whole layout of like the ship and
Well, that's it. Yeah, and it's you have
like
the
corridors and
you have the Innocents. I say the Innocents, which I suppose you'd say were Ripley and Jonesy. And you do have an expert, these are four of the elements they say about which you do have the expert as well. If you actually count Ash as being that, and then obviously he goes off on one. But it's a classic sort of it's almost like a modern Gothic in respect to our future Gothic. There you go. Is that an actual thing? I don't know, but it's in its setting. It is a clever film. It is a clever film in that respect, and yes, it is an iconic monster. So yeah, definitely one of the ones I would say. Would you then go across and make the obvious jump and say about Predator as being one of the iconic movie monsters as well? Then, I mean,
well, yeah, I wouldn't say as iconic as the Alien.
I would.
Would you?
Well, you've got to. You can't. As a comparison of film, that's a different thing. I mean, John McTiernan said he couldn't do that. He did action, and he said, his film was very bright. It still had elements of tension, but it was more of an action film. So without getting into an actual film comparison of the
it's
two.
sort of like two films in a way.
Yes, yeah.
So you've got like that whole sort of thing at the beginning where they're sort of assaulting that rebel camp, and then it sort of changes from that to sort of like I guess sort of an alien sort of monster stalking and sort of picking off.
But I think that
one by one,
the concept of Predator, I think, is fantastic. I think the idea of it is very, very sort of different. I mean, it is, but again, the design of the Predator, how it actually looks, again, it is no less fearsome than the Alien. Perhaps not as savage, but again, the look, the dreadlocks, the mandibles.
that was James Cameron's idea.
Well, again, how different a film would it have been, because the Predator was originally going to be played by Jean-Claude Van Damme, and the idea was for it to be like a sleek ninja-esque hunter, which is ridiculous anyway when you say about it. It was meant to be a ninja-esque hunter against like these big guys, but when you had all these big guys next to Van Damme, it looked he was, you know, they said that it just didn't look right having a smaller creature up next to him. Also, if you watch some of the test footage of it, again, it was like a Doctor Who
It's like
rubber.
riding a
Yeah,
dinosaur.
exactly. Yeah, it was. You're watching it, you're thinking, wow. So he got, I think it was Arnold had got in contact with, as you said, spoke to James Cameron and got in contact with Stan Winston, wasn't it, who designed the Predator. And again, it's that reveal at the end, when it roars and everything, you're thinking, hang on, again, this is something which sort of like means business. It's a bit of a like, you know, whoa, that's there. And of course, then they bring them together in Alien vs Predator, but we probably better not talk about that because. But taking the flaws, whether you love or hate the Alien vs Predator films, they are an ideal match to fight each other. You've got the ultimate prey, the ultimate hunter. So I think, you know, I do think I would rate Predator again with the Alien. Yeah. And we can go, I suppose you got to go way back as well and start and address the things like the old classic Universal monsters. I mean, there's been so many interpretations of like Dracula over the years, you know, with Bela Lugosi. I mean, if you go back, you had like Nosferatu, the old German expressionist film and things like that. Dracula's a funny one on screen because you can, you know, we would. I was watching a bit of Bram Stoker's Dracula the other day, and style-wise, that film is a very good film, I think. You guys are fans of Dracula?
Some of the imagery of it, like I said in some of the earlier ones, but I'm not really a vampire kind of person.
Yeah, but a vampire is it
Doesn't like to get sucked.
oh dear. We're getting to that stage already where it's jokes. No, but I mean, you have some. Well, I'm not a fan of the Twilight films. I mean, that's not what a vampire.
But that's just where it's
Batman.
got to now.
Some of the. If you want to go on about the sort of savagery of a monster, if you watch a film like 30 Days of Night, you guys seen 30 Days of Night?
No.
The concept of having a town in Alaska, which is, you know, there's no sunlight for 30 days. I sat back thinking, why didn't I think of this? And the vampires in that were savage. They were, you know, pretty brutal creatures. They certainly didn't twinkle. And then, you know, that's it. You know, it's like what as you say, what they've made of, you know, vampires now, and in some of the TV shows is
It's like the iconic Salem slot with the
oh
scratching on the window.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We can't. And the blue vampire, Mr. Barlow in Salem's Lot. That was a nasty jump scene in that film, but yes, it's not.
With David Soul.
Yeah.
So what about the other end of the scale then? What about rubbish monsters?
Rubbish monsters.
Monsters that are just laughable.
Oh my goodness. Well, anything made by, you know, these films that they do now, I don't know if it's mockbusters or whatever that the Asylum makes. You get like Sharktopus and things like that. I mean, come on, you know, we have these giant monsters and things that. Are you talking about, you know, that sort of thing, or are you talking about monsters you think, wow, it just didn't look right?
What was that? Is it the Jagger book or something? I can't remember what it's called.
Babadook.
Yeah, is that it?
Yeah, I never got
And I
into
remember
that film.
it's just one of those classic ones where all the way through the film you're sort of engaged with it, and then the moment you see it, you're just completely pulled
You're like,
out.
oh no. It's like, yeah. The one for me that hits me like that was the original It with Tim Curry at the very end. And I don't like spiders. I don't really like spiders. I'm not a fan of them. So you would think something which looked like a giant spider might, and you're looking at it and it comes out and it's a big rubber model and you're thinking to yourself, oh no.
Gary Oldman at the end of Lost in Space was quite scary as a spider. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
That was quite scary.
Oh man. That film was quite scary generally. You know,
it's quite great.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, because Will would have grown up, hadn't he?
Yeah,
He
so
was
they
there
like
with
went
him.
into
Yes,
the
yeah,
future.
and he'd mutated. Yeah, no, that's it.
A recent one that was a really good monster, but in a very crap movie, and again was probably stylized on the alien monsters, was in the second Independence Day film. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah.
It was an awful film, but it's when it's going across the desert and it's chasing that
the
the
giant
school
queen.
kids.
Yes.
Yeah, but the CGI on that was just absolutely breathtaking. But again, I was just absolutely crying with laughter at those like the little school kids on the bus. It just looked amazing.
I mean, the worst one of all of the films, where you have a film that was genuinely ruined, was the Mummy Returns, when The Rock was transformed into the Scorpion King.
Oh, the CGI in that is.
Now, here's something what I didn't understand about that. The Rock then was still wrestling, and he was, he's a big guy. He's obviously an imposing guy. He's going to look big against these, why didn't they make him more like a mummy? Or just even if they just had The Rock's face normally and physique normally and done something more with it, I don't understand.
It's the weird facial expression as he comes through the door as well.
And it just doesn't. But the thing was, it actually. I like the first Mummy film with Brendan Fraser. I did like The Mummy Returns up to that point, and I just thought that is an example of something which just ruined the film for me. And I thought, this is. People were looking around, and I actually saw that one on the cinema, and people were looking around in the cinemas to say, right, okay. People were genuinely stunned, I think, and some people were laughing as well, and it's like...
Marshmallow Man, that was a good one. I like Marshmallow.
Yeah, good old Mr. Stay Puft. Way to go, Ray.
Or the, what they call the demon dogs, hell dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Ghostbusters.
Yes, yeah. That was quite freaky as a kid. There was some bits in...
Okay, my girlfriend's a dog.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, it's got that. Do you know, it's great. Sometimes you have, and you have some of the stop motion. I think the practical visual effects going on from CGI stuff, things like you have in Ghostbusters, The Thing being an example as well. If you get into that sci-fi horror, I mean, The Thing, a shape-shifting alien, some of the visuals in that film are just incredible. How they managed to make some of those animatronics and some of the puppets and things like that.
They ruined it with that prequel.
Well, the prequel, the story was very good. It followed on.
Proceeded.
It proceeded well and actually lined everything up very, very well. And I heard they actually had that lined up to be some of the old school Rick Baker effects.
There are videos on YouTube. I think it's actually from the Star Wars, because I think they did the special effects.
I think Rick Baker did the original. I can't remember, but yes. Anyway, yeah.
But they had the effects and had the practical effects of like the monster and that, and, like crawling across the floor, and stuff like that, and it just looks so realistic. And then when you see like how they did it, they took like the CGI. I don't know how or what they were thinking, whether it's like, it's probably studio interference or whatever, thinking that...
Well, they said that they didn't think it would be realistic with those effects, and then you see it there, and it's like, oh, hang on a minute, am I watching the Scorpion King here? It's crazy. It's crazy that they think that that's going to be, people are going to look at that and say that's not real, and not appreciate the work that goes into it. It's like, CGI can only do so much. I'm not a fan of them overdoing it.
Well, it's best used to enhance a practical effect, basically.
I mean, when you have giant movie monsters, Godzilla, my favourite monster, probably. As a little kid, I loved those old Toho ones. I thought they were great.
It's a lot of fish.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. 1998
well,
was
it?
it?
Talk about Godzilla. You should talk about that one.
No,
I
I'll
really
talk.
like that film.
It's not a case of not liking it. The problem was when I saw the old Godzillas when he was fighting against other monsters, I like monster movies where they fight, let them fight. I like monster movies when they're doing that. I also like one of the things with Godzilla was he was pretty much indestructible, and when he has an iconic design, with the spines and everything else. That was sort of thing. I think the 1998 version went so far away from that. Although as a monster film, as you say, it's not a bad film.
Yeah, I think maybe if it wasn't Godzilla,
yes,
it was just some
absolutely,
random monster
or something. Yeah, exactly. And it's what it is. But I like the legendary stuff. I think the new ones are quite good. I didn't think they were bad at all. They've kept true to that sort of design. But Godzilla is a good example of, obviously, the original back in 6 maybe, was relating to the Japanese fear of nuclear war. And it was quite a heavy, that's obviously quite a heavy subject. It's quite a dark film.
That as the origin story for the 1998.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And yet, when you started going along, some of the films were basically comedies. For kids up to like 10, it was like a serious, it's like dinosaurs fighting, and then everyone else like above 10 was like, hang on a minute, they're just guys in rubber suits, and you can clearly see it. But it does say that, I know a lot of people do like Godzilla because I need to remember it's the Monsterverse, isn't it? Is still one of the expanded universes that's still going cinematically. The Dark Universe that Universal tried with the rehash of The Mummy. Oh dear. And yeah, that wasn't gonna work. But the idea of Godzilla facing probably the other, probably most iconic movie monster, arguably in King Kong. If you're talking about stop motion and things, you go back to the 30s. That's a great film as well.
As a kid, I just used to watch that film all the time.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
And whenever it's on telly, I still watch it. And I think to myself how they managed to do it and stuff.
Like the Peter Jackson.
I like that one as well. Yes.
Horrific scenes. It is really terrifying where they're down the bottom of that chasm, all those sort of bugs just come out, and they're just sort of like, and just like the eeriness like of the music and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that scene was meant to be in the original in the 30s. I think there's a cut somewhere where they actually have it, where there was going to be that going on. Again, there was it was a film that was the King Kong, the Peter Jackson one, was slated for some of the CGI in that. But I did think there were bits. That bit in the chasm, there was that bit when Andy Serkis is getting eaten by that
that worm.
Yeah, and it is. If you're watching that, I think if there were any kids there, because I think it was only a PG, I think that would be a genuinely sort of freaky scene. That would really.
Again, another film very good at showing us as the monsters.
Yes.
As opposed to the actual monsters.
Do you know that always bothered me? I'm going to go off on a tangent now. That always bothered me. As you have some of these films, like 20 Million Miles to Earth, for example. The alien creature, he's taken off his planet. Watch the film. He doesn't attack anything in that film. He's attacked by all the things on Earth. And they're talking about him being a menace, but it's actually scared. It's just acting out of fear. Everything in that film attacks the creature first. And it's like at the end, we've killed it, we've saved humanity. No, you took it from his planet, and you made it grow big, basically. And it's just scared, and I don't like it. Winds me up. And King Kong's another example where, it's making a profit or it's doing something, getting a show, money, and everything else. It is,
I think films like Jurassic Park
yeah, absolutely.
Would we count the T-Rex as a movie monster?
Yeah. Yeah, again, that's a combination of CGI and practical, and that was Stan Winston again, wasn't it? So, you know, that scared me on the cinema, Jurassic Park. You know, I love dinosaurs, but there were some bits in that what were tense as you like.
That's another one sort of similar theme to like Aliens, where it's just creatures that have no real sort of motivation, and it's us humans that sort of create the situation in which.
I think it's part of that whole thing of like growing up in it as little kids, you think there's monsters out there, and then as you grow up you realise we're the monsters, and I think that's reflected quite a lot in these movies.
Movie's greatest monster, man. Clearly, you know what I mean? Oh dear. I wouldn't have thought we would have drawn that conclusion really, but it certainly seems that way.
Well, I'm just talking about the overall theme of, I guess, sort of trying to harness nature for a profit, sort of that sort of like theme. Not necessarily saying that, you know, humans are the real monsters, but
no, but it's very true, and I used to love all those old stop motion Ray Harryhausen films, you know, like Clash of the Titans and Jason the Argonauts and things like that. And again, you haven't got time to pick apart. There's some iconic movie creatures there, like Talos and Jason the Argonauts, the skeleton battles, things like that. But there was a film called Valley of the Gwangi, which was a western, and there was like a cave which goes through to prehistoric times, and they basically try and take an Allosaurus, essentially, back through with them and make a circus show out of it. Now that's bad as well. But I remember what I don't understand. There was a scene in that film which as a kid, it really struck me, and it was really weird, and it stuck in my head. Was there's a scene where one of the cowboys picks up like it's a spear, or is it a flag or something like that, and the Allosaurus is fighting with a Triceratops or a Styracosaurus or something like that. And he goes and rides in and sticks the thing in the side of the Styracosaurus. Now, keep in mind they're fighting. There's no sort of like threat or anything like that there. Now, I thought to myself, well, maybe he's doing that as the distraction. But they were already distracted. It was really odd. And I thought, well, that's pretty cruel, really. And as a young kid, you know, to think that, it's quite bizarre, really. But, yeah, I mean, you know, dinosaurs... Dragons could be another one. You go
like
on. Gremlins, yeah. Freaked me out, that did as well. Gremlins is a great one because you've got the comparison there between Gizmo and obviously what they can turn into and what they look like. And I mean, they were freaky things. I mean, I would consider that a horror film. Probably one of the first horror films you would watch, I think maybe as a kid, Gremlins.
Don't get them wet.
I know. Follow the rules. Why don't they follow the rules? Come on, you'd be careful, wouldn't you? You'd be more careful than that. Well, I don't know.
Well, we got to probably mention Jaws as another classic movie monster.
Jaws is a film where I remember reading about Spielberg making Jaws, and he said he actually said that they went over budget. There was issues, and they had this robot shark. I think it wasn't it? Was it a robot shark or animatronic shark or whatever? And he said it wasn't working, and they were going over budget, and he was about to call ahead on the whole thing. And he said, and then I had an idea. What if you don't actually see the shark? And of course, ultimate tension builder was you don't have it. And another thing with Jaws, it's something that could happen. It was, you know, it was a creature that wasn't fictional or in another world or in the past. It's, you know, there's sharks around. However far-fetched from reality shark attacks like that are, you know, people do get killed. And every time you go in the water, now probably people think of Jaws, and that's got to be down to, you know, one of the greatest movie monsters, as you said, of all time, really. I mean, the other films were just scary, generally. Like you said, Jaws the Revenge, Roaring Shark. What was the one you said? 3D, wasn't it? Jaws 3?
Jaws 3.
Jaws 3 was in 3D, wasn't it? And there was some...
Is that where he comes back for revenge?
4, I think, was the Revenge. Yeah, so yeah, they're just not, you know. Oh dear. I think another conclusion we can sort of draw is that the sequels of films of these or remakes of them have a lot to answer for. Again, things like The Mummy, the Jaws, or the modern horror films, if you count things like, you know, without getting into things like the Friday the 13th and things like that, they've all got far too many sequels and really water down the monsters quite a bit.
Would you count Jabba as a monster?
Oh dear. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. I mean, you could do one on Star Wars, couldn't you? You could do one on the actual creatures in Star Wars. I mean, you go Sarlacc.
Yeah.
And things like that. But yeah, Jabba, I suppose, you know, again, Jabba's got that great design, hasn't he? He's, you know. Not one of your best impressions, dude, in fairness.
I think we better wrap this up anyway.
Well, I was just thinking that same thing.
On that note.
So, yes.
Well.
We could do more of this though. We could go into the Star Wars ones as a special if you want.
Yeah, we could do
Star Wars holiday special.
Yeah,
Part
Star
2.
Wars holiday special. Whipster.
That's an idea for a future coffee break. That is definitely. You can see him on YouTube now, can't you? Anyway, like I said, get off subject.
Okay. Bye then.
You're still so unenthusiastic, isn't he, about things, you know? Later.
Yeah. Bye.
You're not going to leave this bit in again, are you?
Yeah, it's not when we're actually unclipping ourselves. Touchy bloke.
Breathing